I never thought I'd end up in a place like that rundown Victorian house on Elm Street, the kind of spot where the paint peels like old skin and the floorboards creak underfoot as if they're whispering secrets they shouldn't. It was 2018, and I was 25, fresh out of a bad breakup and scraping by on freelance graphic design gigs that barely covered ramen and rent. The ad online promised charming historic home, low utilities, immediate occupancy. It didn't mention the ghost, of course. No one does until it's too late. I signed the lease sight unseen, desperate for a fresh start, and moved in on a drizzly October afternoon, my beat-up Honda packed with boxes and regrets. The first night wasn't so bad. I collapsed onto the lumpy mattress in the master bedroom upstairs, the one with the slanted ceiling and a single window overlooking the overgrown backyard. The room smelled faintly of mildew and something sweeter, like faded lavender. I chalked it up to the previous tenant's forgotten air freshener. Sleep came easy, dreamless, until around 3 a.m. when I jolted awake to a soft thump from the hallway. My heart hammered as I lay there, staring at the shadows dancing on the walls from the street lamp outside. It was probably the house settling, I told myself, or a raccoon in the attic. But as I drifted back off, I swear I felt a cool breeze brush my cheek, like someone leaning in too close to breathe on my skin. By the second day, I started unpacking, trying to make the place feel like mine. The living room had a massive stone fireplace, cold and sooty, and I found an old Polaroid camera tucked behind a loose baseboard. Grainy photos of a woman in a white dress, smiling coyly in what looked like this very house, dated 1923. Her eyes followed me as I hung my posters, dark and piercing, like she was sizing me up. I laughed it off, set the photos on the mantel. That evening, as I cooked pasta in the tiny kitchen, the faucet started dripping rhythmically. Drip, 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 faster than I'd left it. I twisted the handle tight, but it persisted, echoing through the empty rooms. Upstairs, my bedroom door, which I'd left ajar, swung shut with a deliberate click. I froze, fork midway to my mouth, listening to the silence that followed. No wind, no draft, just the house playing tricks. Word got around quick in the neighborhood. My coworker, Lena, who lived a few blocks away, texted me after I mentioned the address. "Dude, that's the Hawthorne place. Old lady died there last year. Fell down the stairs or something. They said she was lonely, waited for her husband who never came back from the war." I rolled my eyes, but unease gnawed at me. That night, I double-checked the locks and slept with the lights on, the cheap lamp casting harsh yellow glows that made every corner look sinister. Around midnight, I heard it, footsteps, soft, padded, like bare feet on wood, pacing the hallway outside my door. They stopped right in front of it, lingered, then retreated down the stairs. I didn't move, breath shallow, pretending to sleep. When morning came, I scoured the house for signs of intruders. Nothing, just a faint chill in the air, and one of the Polaroids from the mantel was missing, the one where the woman's hand rested on an empty chair, as if inviting someone to sit. I tried to rationalize it all week. The drips were bad plumbing. The door had warped hinges. The footsteps were my imagination amplified by the quiet. But the cold spots started appearing, pockets of icy air that made my breath fog even in the stuffy afternoons. I'd be working at my desk in the corner of the living room, laptop humming, and suddenly the temperature would plummet, raising goosebumps on my arms. Once, as I reached for my coffee mug, my fingers brushed something intangible. A whisper of fabric, silk maybe, grazing my wrist. I yanked back, spilling hot liquid across my keyboard, heart slamming against my ribs. That evening, I called the landlord, voice trembling as I described the issues. He chuckled, a dry rasp over the line. "Old houses, kid. Ghosts in the walls, that's all." He hung up before I could argue. Desperation led me to the local library the next day. Dusty archives in the basement where a librarian with cat eye glasses unearthed yellowed newspaper clippings. Eleanor Hawthorne, 1920s socialite, widowed young when her fiancé vanished at sea. She lived alone for decades. Rumors of scandal, affairs, a jilted lover, a fall down those very stairs in 2017. Her neck snapped like a twig. No foul play, they said, but her eyes in the obituary photo were the same as the Polaroids. Haunted, hungry. I pocketed a photocopy, hands shaking, and drove home with the windows down, blasting punk rock to drown out the what-ifs swirling in my head. The suspense built like a storm that weekend. Saturday night, I invited friends over for drinks, hoping noise and laughter would chase away the shadows. We cracked beers in the living room, the fire crackling despite the soot, stories flowing loose and loud. But midway through, the room went quiet, everyone staring at the staircase. A single photo fluttered down from the top step, landing face up at our feet. It was the missing Polaroid, but now the empty chair beside Eleanor had a shadowy figure blurred in the seat, indistinct, like a smudge of ink. My friend Jake laughed nervously. "Photoshop prank?" But I hadn't touched it. The party fizzled out fast after that. Excuses mumbled as they bolted for the door. Alone again, I nailed the bedroom door shut from the inside, barricaded it with a chair, and huddled under the covers, phone clutched like a lifeline, scrolling horror forums until my eyes burned. Sunday dawned gray and oppressive, rain lashing the windows like accusatory fingers. I spent the day packing a go bag, debating whether to break the lease and crash on Lena's couch. But stubbornness or stupidity kept me rooted. As dusk fell, the house seemed to hold its breath. The dripping faucet had stopped, replaced by a low hum, almost a sigh, emanating from the walls. I lit every candle I had, their flames guttering unnaturally, and poured a glass of wine to steady my nerves. That's when the whispers started. Faint at first, like radio static tuned to a forbidden frequency, murmuring my name, soft, insistent, laced with longing. "Alex, stay, please." I spilled the wine, red staining the rug like blood, and bolted upstairs, slamming the bedroom door. The lock clicked futilely. It was a push button, flimsy as my resolve. I paced the room, shadows lengthening as night deepened, the rain a relentless drumbeat outside. The air grew thick, heavy with that lavender scent, stronger now, intoxicating. My skin prickled, every hair standing on end, as if the room was filling with unseen eyes. I sank onto the bed, knees to chest, whispering prayers I half remembered from childhood. Then the mattress dipped, not a creak, but a deliberate sag, as if weight settled beside me, gentle, inviting. I froze, eyes wide in the dim glow of my phone's screen, which flickered and died, plunging the room into inky black. The only light came from the window, moonlight slicing through the clouds like a blade, illuminating the foot of the bed where a shape shimmered into view. She was there, translucent at first, then solidifying into the woman from the photos. Eleanor, her white dress pooling around her like mist, dark hair cascading in waves, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. She didn't speak, but her lips curved in a smile, sad and seductive, as she reached out a hand, pale fingers curling toward me. Panic surged, but so did something else. Curiosity or pity, or the raw pull of isolation that had drawn me here in the first place. "What do you want?" I whispered, voice cracking. Her touch was cool, feather light on my arm, trailing up to my shoulder, sending shivers cascading down my spine. Not painful but electric, alive in a way that made the room spin. Time blurred after that. She drew closer, her form pressing against mine, the bed enveloping us in its ancient embrace. The air hummed with energy, charged like the moments before lightning, and her whispers filled my mind. Not words, but sensations. Loneliness echoing through decades, a hunger for touch unmet since her fall. I should have screamed, fought, fled down those cursed stairs. But fear paralyzed me, twisted into a thriller's grip, where every instinct screamed danger yet my body betrayed me, leaning into the chill of her embrace. Her fingers traced my jaw, my neck, igniting sparks that warred with the ice in my veins. The rain pounded harder, wind howling as if the house itself protested, floorboards groaning in agony. Her lips brushed mine, cold, yet burning, tasting of salt and forgotten promises. I gasped, the sound swallowed by the storm, as she pulled me down into the sheets, her body molding to mine with impossible fluidity. It wasn't passion. It was possession, a desperate claiming that blurred the line between living and dead. My hands passed through her at times, grasping smoke, then solidified against silk and bone, her form flickering like a faulty bulb. Whispers turned to pleas, "Stay with me, forever." And I felt her memories flood in, stolen glances at galas, the ache of an empty bed, the fatal slip on rain-slick steps, neck twisting with a crack that echoed in my skull. Suspense coiled tighter, my pulse thundering as shadows writhed on the walls, shapes darting at the edges of vision. Other spirits? Echoes of her pain? I don't know how long it lasted, minutes, hours. Time dissolving in that spectral tangle. Her nails dug in, not breaking skin but marking my soul, drawing out secrets I'd buried. The ex who left me hollow, the dreams of connection I'd abandoned. She fed on it, growing more vivid, her eyes glowing with ethereal light, while I weakened, limbs heavy as lead. Dread built, a thriller's crescendo, as the first gray light of dawn crept through the curtains. She stiffened, a hiss escaping her lips, and the room erupted. Candles flaring to life and snuffing out in bursts, the door rattling on its hinges, the window cracking with a sharp snap. "No!" she wailed, voice shattering the air like glass, her grip tightening to iron. I thrashed, terror overriding the trance, shoving against her form that now burned like frostbite. With a surge of adrenaline, I rolled free, tumbling off the bed onto the cold floor, scrambling for the door. It flew open on its own, hinges screaming, and I bolted down the stairs 2 at a time, her cries chasing me. "Alex! Don't leave me alone!" The house alive with fury. Pictures crashing from walls, furniture scraping across floors as if possessed. The front door stuck, knobs slick with condensation that felt like tears, but I wrenched it open, bursting into the rain-sodden street, barefoot and gasping. Behind me, the house loomed, windows dark, but I felt her gaze, piercing through the storm, promising return. I didn't go back. Crashed at Lena's, spinning the tale as a fever dream to avoid the psych ward questions. But the marks lingered, faint bruises on my arms, shaped like delicate fingers, and that lavender scent clings to my clothes no matter how many times I wash them. Nights now, in my new apartment across town, I wake to footsteps in the hall, soft and padded, stopping at my door. The Polaroid I smuggled out changes. Sometimes the shadow in the chair is clearer, almost me. And last week, in the mirror, for a split second, her eyes stared back from my reflection, hungry, waiting. I haven't slept alone since, but the emptiness follows, a ghost of its own. Was it real, or did the house break something in me, inviting her in forever? I don't know, but every creak in the night reminds me, she's not done. She's just getting started. That first week blurred into a haze of denial and dread. Monday morning, after the footsteps, I called in sick to work, spending the day mapping the house like a crime scene. Every closet, every cubby. Nothing but dust bunnies and forgotten relics. A tarnished locket in the attic with a faded photo of a sailor, Eleanor's fiancé perhaps, his face stern under a captain's hat. I clipped it open, half expecting a curse, but found only a lock of hair, dark and brittle. As I pocketed it, the attic window slammed shut, windless, the glass rattling like teeth chattering in fear. Downstairs, the kitchen chairs were rearranged in a perfect circle around the table, as if a séance had convened in my absence. My skin crawled. I fled to the backyard, overgrown with weeds that clawed at my ankles, the air thick with the buzz of unseen insects. Lena came over that afternoon, her skepticism a lifeline. "You're stressed, babe. Breakups do that." We walked the property, her laughter echoing off the sagging porch, but even she faltered when we re-entered the house. The temperature in the foyer had dropped 10 degrees, our breaths visible in plumes. "What the hell?" she muttered, rubbing her arms. Then, from the kitchen, a clatter, plates shifting in the cabinets, one crashing to the floor in shards. We ran, glass crunching underfoot, and as we reached the front door, the locket in my pocket grew warm, almost hot, burning through denim. I yanked it out, the hair inside now singed at the ends, curling like smoke signals. She crashed on my couch that night, but the house wasn't done toying with us. Around 2 a.m., the whispers began again, clearer this time, a woman's voice laced with static. "He's gone, but you could stay." Lena bolted upright, eyes wild. "Did you hear that?" We huddled together, phone's flashlight beams cutting the dark. But the voice circled us, emanating from the walls, the ceiling, even the floor beneath our feet. It spoke of betrayal, the fiancé's letters from the war, promising return, then silence. Eleanor's descent into isolation, lovers who came and went like ghosts themselves. Each word dripped venom, building a narrative that mirrored my own scars, making the air feel personal, invasive. By morning, Lena was gone, texting apologies and "call an exorcist." Alone again, I researched obsessively, forums buzzing with similar tales. Cold spots as spirit signatures, whispers as residual energy, intimate encounters as the ultimate lure. One post chilled me. A user claiming a spectral lover drained their life force, leaving them aged overnight. I touched my face, tracing lines that hadn't been there yesterday. Faint crow's feet at 25. Paranoia set in. I installed cameras, cheap webcams from Amazon, their red lights blinking like accusatory eyes. The footage from that night? Static mostly, but at 3:17 a.m., a flicker. A white shape gliding past the lens in the hallway, pausing, turning toward the camera with a tilt of the head. Tuesday brought rain, relentless sheets that turned the streets to rivers and the house to a dripping cave. Power flickered during dinner, plunging me into candlelight, shadows leaping like dancers on the walls. I ate mechanically, fork scraping plate, when the hum returned, low, vibrating through the table legs. The locket, now on a chain around my neck, pulsed in rhythm, warm against my chest. Curiosity overrode fear. I followed the sound upstairs, candle held high, wax dripping onto my hand in stinging drops. The bedroom door stood open, though I'd locked it. Inside, the bed was made, sheets tucked military tight, and on the pillow lay a fresh flower, wilted rose, petals bruised purple, scent heavy with decay. That's when the touching started in earnest. As I bent to pick it up, fingers, not mine, brushed my calf, trailing up slowly, deliberately, leaving a trail of frost. I whipped around, candle snuffing out, darkness swallowing the room. Hard in my throat, I fumbled for my phone, light beams swinging wildly, catching glimpses. A hem of white fabric vanishing around the corner, a handprint fogging the mirror, palm splayed as if pressing from the other side. I backed out, slamming the door, but the knob turned under my grip, cold metal twisting against my will. Downstairs, I barricaded myself in the bathroom, tub running hot as a moat, steam clouding the air. Even there, the whispers seeped through the pipes. Touch me, feel me. Wednesday, I confronted the neighbors. A grizzled old man named Mr. Hargrove who mowed his lawn with military precision. Eleanor? She was a looker, but broken. Waited for that sailor boy till it killed her spirit. They say she calls to the lonely ones, pulls them in close. His eyes darted to my house, then away. Fell down the stairs chasing a shadow, or so the story goes. But shadows don't scream. He wouldn't say more, retreating inside as thunder rumbled.